SPX6900 and the entire crypto market is pulling back today, but instead of panicking, I'll explain exactly what I'm doing in this video. I'll also talk about why I'm so bullish on this project in particular, and go over the reasons why I believe the crypto market is showing weakness. But before I get into all of that, guys, this is Royalty Crypto, and if you've yet to subscribe to my channel, please do me a favor and smash that like and subscribe button. But without further ado, let's talk about SPX. If you guys are unfamiliar with this project, it is basically a meme coin with a very strong community that believes in a concept of anti-trading, and that concept has served this coin very well for the past couple of years. Although we are down 30% in the past week, and these past few months have not been great for this coin, that is mainly because of the fact that the crypto space has been in a terrible spot, not because this is a bad coin. That is important to remember. Also, guys, when you zoom out on the chart, you can see that we actually hit the all-time high for this coin in September of 2025. This is very unique compared to the majority of altcoins because that was a somewhat bearish time for most other meme coins in the space. So the fact that we were able to have such an incredible run during a time when we didn't have very much euphoria in the overall altcoin space does give me a lot of hope that this coin could have a fantastic run once the right environment for altcoins returns. And I do think that it will likely return later this year. However, right now we have a lot of uncertainty in the overall economy, which I do believe is the reason this coin has been struggling. Also, guys, it's important to remember that meme coins are the most risky side of crypto, and whenever we go into risk-off environments, which is what we're seeing right now, it is normal to see meme coins sell off the hardest, but vice versa. As soon as we see a risk-on environment return to the market, which I do expect to happen sometime this year, that is when you can expect meme coins to outperform basically every asset in the entire crypto space. And I don't expect that to be any different this time around. So in my opinion, guys, buying into immense fear and basically all-time lows for this project presents a fantastic risk to reward opportunity. And in my opinion, guys, I could see this coin getting anywhere between a $10 to $20 billion market cap sometime this year. And if you are buying down here at these levels, you could end up seeing a 20 to 40x on your money. So that's some pretty insane returns in my opinion. However, you must be willing to bear some risk because this coin is obviously much more risky than investing into Bitcoin in my opinion. Also, when you go on over to the crypto fear and greed index, you can see that we are dropping back down into the fear territory. And whenever we are experiencing fear on this index, I do believe it is a fantastic time to be dollar cost averaging into strong altcoins. And in my opinion, SPX6900 is one of those strong altcoins. Now, this hasn't updated since last night around 5:30 Pacific time. So when this does update again, I expect us to be somewhere between a 30 to a 35. And this will be the first time we've seen fear in a couple of weeks. In my opinion, it is best to inverse trade the overall population. So the fact that everybody is panic selling today typically means it would be a good time to buy up those people's fear. But of course, guys, that is not financial advice. That is just my opinion, and you need to make that decision on your own. So why do I believe there has been so much fear return to the overall crypto market? In my opinion, the top reason is because Trump has threatened more tariffs on all of the European nations who are opposed to him purchasing Greenland. As you can see here, these nations include Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, and the United Kingdom, amongst others. And the US has proposed a 10% import tax, which is scheduled to take effect on February 1st. And this tariff rate is scheduled to increase on June 1st if we are not able to purchase Greenland. Now, I'm not going to talk about whether or not I support this decision by any means. I'm just here to cover how this affects the overall market. But I do believe that this is why the market is selling off so hard today. The prices of crypto coins, especially altcoins, are highly sensitive to uncertainty in the overall macro economy. And this is, of course, causing volatility for that very reason. Now, in my opinion, I do think that we will reach some sort of deal with these nations, and I wouldn't be surprised if at some point this week we actually are able to resolve this situation, which of course could pump markets back to the upside. However, we will just have to continue to monitor this situation because it is impossible to know whether or not that will happen. Also, guys, another thing that is very interesting about this overall tariff situation is the fact that the Supreme Supreme Court keeps kicking the can down the road with their ruling. If you guys have been watching my channel for the past couple of weeks, I have talked about how it is very likely that the Supreme Court will end up deeming these tariffs illegal, and betting markets are giving it about a 65 to 70% chance that that will be the case. So there is a legitimate chance that even if these tariffs do go into effect, that this ruling could force Trump to remove these tariffs at some point next year and refund all of the money. And as it stands, here is the current timeline. As I mentioned earlier, Trump's 10% tariff on European nations will go into effect on February 1st, assuming that we are not able to reach a deal, and then we are expected to be hit with a retaliation on February 6th, which of course could piss Trump off and make the whole situation much worse if that does happen. And then February 20th is when we could be seeing a ruling from the Supreme Court. So yeah, guys, this could be creating a lot of uncertainty for the next couple of weeks, so be ready for volatility to the up and downside. But unfortunately, if this situation does trend in the wrong direction, then I would expect most of that volatility to be to the downside. But moving on to something that could be very bullish for the overall crypto market, earlier today the CFTC chair said that Congress is very close to passing the crypto market structure legislation. This is very positive to see because last week, if you guys were watching my channel, I had talked about how this bill was supposed to be passed. I believe it was Thursday, but unfortunately, because there was some things that were added to the bill last second, it created a lot of disagreement among Coinbase and others, and the bill ended up being delayed. So it is nice to see that this could potentially be passed as early as this week, and I do believe that this will be a bullish catalyst in the long run. However, it might be overshined by this current situation with the European tariffs. Alright guys, and then the last thing that I wanted to take a look at was the Bitcoin liquidation heat map. Now, I know this video is about SPX6900, but in my opinion, we will not see strength return to coins like SPX6900 unless Bitcoin starts to perform well. And as you can see here, this recent dip today has liquidated a lot of long traders. In my videos from last week, I did talk about how if this uncertainty in the economy continued, that it was very likely that Bitcoin would trend down and liquidate these traders, and it is possible that we could continue to drop all the way down to around 85,000 or potentially as low as 82,500. This is because of the long leverage liquidations down here, and this could incentivize market makers and whales to target these liquidation prices. However, guys, in the long run, you can see that we are still very unbalanced on this chart to the upside. Now, this could take multiple months to play out, especially if there is a lot of FUD going around the overall economy, but I do expect at some point that the market makers will start to target these short liquidations above us, and there is quite a few. They basically range from our current price at 88,000 all the way up to 120,000 for Bitcoin, and in my opinion, this is the perfect recipe to see a short squeeze at some point happen for Bitcoin. Now, if that does take place, I do believe that that will cause a mass FOMO event because nobody will believe in the Fourier halving cycle at that point. Now, if that does happen, I think it is very likely we could see Bitcoin return to around 140 to as high as 180k, and that is when I expect to see coins like SPX6900 go parabolic. So that's going to do it for this video. I hope you all had a fantastic day, and I'll be talking to you tomorrow. Peace.